In this video we're going to be taking a look at a brand new carbon plated running shoe from fashion retail brand Zara, and I'm going to be telling you whether at £140 this is a serious running shoe or a waste of everybody's time. Welcome to Fordy Runs. If this is your first time here, my name is Chris Ford and I'm a running coach who loves to make YouTube videos about running shoes and running content. And like I said in the opening, today we're going to be taking a look at this brand new £140 carbon plated running shoe from the fashion chain Zara. Right team, so I've just finished my last run this week in the Zara, I've wrote it down, long distance running trainers carbon plated running shoe. And I wanted to report back this week just to let you know all about this shoe. I'm going to tell you in this video all about the shoe, the stats and features, that kind of thing. I'm going to let you know if it's actually any good as a running shoe. I'm also going to give you some other shoes to consider if you're seriously thinking about buying this shoe. And then we're going to wrap it all up at the end and I'm going to let you know whether the world has gone mad or Zara have actually made a very good running shoe at £140. Got it? Let's move on. Okay guys, so before we get into the stats and features, I need you all to watch this disclaimer to cover my arse. So with that done, we've got one more job to do, and that is I want you to all go over to Instagram and I want you to follow Fordy_runs, okay? Now the reason we need to do that is because we need to get bigger on Instagram than Kafuzi. Okay, let's crack on with the stats and features. Okay, so here is the Zara long distance running trainer, which I think is one of the worst names ever. And I do want to know from you, seriously, right, go in the comments and tell me, would you actually consider buying this running shoe, regardless of this review? Is this a shoe that genuinely interests you? Let me know. So this shoe is £140 here in the UK. It's got a midsole made up of TPEA material. We've got a mesh upper, full length carbon plate, like I said, 39mm stack in the heel with an 8mm drop. We've got I don't know whether I mentioned it, a mesh upper on the shoe. This doesn't fit true to size. I had to go to a UK 10. And then we've got some decent rubber coverage on the outsole. Right, so let's take a closer look at this shoe. There's the carbon plate. So there's this TPEA material midsole that we've got on this shoe. They've actually done me a favour and put the stats and features on the heel. There's the mesh upper. We've got bits of foam around here which sort of lock you down, which is quite good. And then we've got like a racing tongue. Laces are okay. I'll come on to them in just a bit. There's your rubber coverage on your outsole. And I think that's probably all you need to see. Okay, so how I've been using this shoe. Okay, so this week I've been using the shoe for various different stuff that I'm doing. I'm in the middle of marathon training. If you didn't know, I've got Brighton and the London Marathon coming up. So I just unboxed the shoe and took it out this week to get some miles in it. In terms of paces, I've done a mixture of paces in the shoe. Done some gold pace, done some harder stuff than that, but also done some easier pace in the shoe as well. Because I've tried to do a bit of everything in it really this week. Okay, so let's move on to my thoughts on this shoe. So the first big takeaway from this shoe is that how difficult it is to put on. These laces, it doesn't matter how much you loosen them up, it's still really hard to get this shoe on. I don't know why that is, but I've struggled with it all week. This midsole compound is extremely firm. It feels very much like Brooks DNA Flash, if you know what I mean, if you've run in that shoe. So like with the Hyperion shoes, not the current versions, but the versions before that, this is the sort of feeling you're getting in this shoe. It's a firm ride. Will this soften up? Yes, probably. But at the moment, with the runs that I've been doing on it, all I've been coming away thinking is, Jesus, that's firm. It does have a noticeable rocker on the shoe, which is actually quite nice, to give it some credit. And I have to say, in the wet this week, the shoe was very good. The upper is super breathable. Again, more credit due there. The upper obviously goes creasing up and all that kind of stuff. But actually, when it's on foot, it's very airy. There's no overheating or anything like that. I've had no heat spots, no rubbing or anything like that from the upper or from the heel section either. This is a shoe that works better the faster you're getting, as you'd expect, but the carbon plate is not noticeable. It doesn't feel like it's working very well with the foam. What this feels like is they've got a very firm foam with a carbon plate in it, and neither are working very well together. Now what I mean by that is when the shoes get developed, they think about how the plate works with the foam and obviously the foot, right? But what this feels like is they've gone, you know what, we need a carbon plated running shoe because everybody's running in carbon plated running shoes. Let's get some foam, let's stick a plate in it and hope for the best. This doesn't feel like this has been developed and thought about in terms of how a runner sort of runs, how a foot moves, and how the foam, carbon plate and human interact. This made me think of like an 80s car. Now bear with me on this. When I used to bring out versions of these cars in the 80s, and I used to put a spoiler on the back of it and call it like STI, and everybody thought that it was go really fast. It's a similar sort of thing to what they've done here. Is they thought, you know what, if we put a carbon plate in this, everyone's going to think this is super fast. Are you with me? And this is probably a good point to move on to likes and dislikes. And there are actually some likes. I like this upper, and when you can get your foot into it, I actually like the lockdown. I like £140, and the outsole's not too bad either. Dislikes. This foam is way too firm. The ride is very uninspiring and almost boring. There's no point having a carbon plate in this shoe. It weighs 300 grams, and I don't know whether I mentioned it, but it's really annoying to get on. Now, if you are seriously considering spending £140 on this shoe, I just want to give you some shoes to think about. For about £120, you can get the Under Armour Velocity Elite version 2, which is much better than this. You can get the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 at about £100 to £120 as well, which is obviously better than this. You can get the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4, not the PB version, for about £140 to £150 in some places. You can get the Asics Magic Speed 4, which is also a very firm ride, but much better than this. And if you're spending £140, why not spend sort of £100, £155 and get the Nike Zoom Fly 6? Just a thought. So there's some shoes that are much better than this, but a similar sort of price point. Which leads me on to this. So look, this is not a terrible shoe, okay? But I think what's terrible is that the reason it's here. The reason this shoe exists is because running is very fashionable at the moment. And don't get me wrong, I think that's a good thing, because the more people that come into running is actually a bonus. But what Zara have done, and it's very clever, they've created a line of like clothing and all that sort of stuff, and they thought to themselves, actually, you know what, why don't we make a shoe as well, because somebody might actually buy it, and if we stick a carbon plate on it, someone's definitely going to buy it. And that's the sad state of affairs at the moment, that people think like running shoes, oh yeah, it's got a carbon plate and it's going to make me run faster. No, you should be spending £145 on a gym membership, people. That will make you run faster. And I think this does tell us a little bit about the state of running at the moment, that it's maybe going a little bit more towards being fashionable than it is being functionable at the moment. Running's awesome because it's great for wellness, great for well-being, mental health. You know, it's getting people off the couch, it's getting people together on that social aspects and all the positives. But there is a downside that's been diluted by brands, retailers and marketing. So we're walking a fine line, people. And this shoe, I think, sums up where running is at the moment, which is that it's booming. And like I said, that's good news. But there's people out there exploiting it. So my advice to all of you is not to buy this shoe, because this is not a running shoe. Yes, you can run in it, but I don't think it's going to do you any favours. And there's much better out there, people. What this actually is a fashion accessory. And by sticking a carbon plate on it, they think people may buy it, which is just stupid. Look, so let's leave it there. Like I said, this is not a terrible shoe, okay? This is not the worst shoe I've run in, because there's some absolute shockers this year. But this shoe doesn't need to exist. It's absolutely pointless. And I wouldn't go out and buy it. Spend your money, like I said, on something else, like the shoes I listed earlier. This is unfortunately a sign of the times, and I fear that we may see more of this. It's all going a bit nuts. As I said, it's not a bad thing. I'm all for getting more people into the sport. The more people that are running is awesome, okay? That is a brilliant thing. But this just feels like some people are starting to take advantage of others. So that's my thoughts, and I wrote this down on the Zara Long Distance Running Trainer. It's a terrible name. They should have thought something better. But I've definitely taken one for the team this week by running in that. And as I said, it ain't terrible, but it's absolutely pointless, and don't even consider buying it. Got it? I'll see you all later.